Now, a bit quick. A 4-chapter book that really involves everything we know about God, and it was revealed in His Word in such a small book. Read the story. Chapter 1. Now it came about in the days when the judges governed that there was a famine in the land, and a certain man of Bethlehem in Judea went to sojourn in the land of Moab with his wife and his 2 sons. Bethlehem from here, a few miles through the valley, as the valley of the Hannah Valley and the Kidron Valley run into one. They flow out towards Bethlehem. Certainly in the county, Judea. House of bread, Bethlehem, house of bread. Beth is house, Lem, word for bread. In Judea, Judea, praise. They went to sojourn in the land of Moab. Now Moab was the other side of the Dead Sea. So if Jerusalem is say on the sea, if Jerusalem is say here, that box, they're heading over here. They're heading southeast. What's interesting is Moab means party bucket. Where you go to the toilet. In a nice, polite way, we'll say the wash bowl. It's not a wash bowl. It's a party bucket.
Bless you, James.
They left the house of bread for the... That's what they did. Now there was a famine in the land. Remember, Israel's running under law. If they uphold their end of the covenant, blessed. If they disobey the covenant, judgment. He promised them an early and a latter rain. That's for the 2 harvests they needed. Well, if we've got a drought on the land, it's not because the weather ain't been blowing the rain clouds this direction. It's because God has turned the water off. It was under law. So whenever you read in the Old Testament and you see a famine, you know they're backslid. And what is the time of this? Time of the judges. What's the sad verse in Judges? Multiple times. Every man done what was right in his own eyes. So he's leaving with his 2 boys, his wife and the husband. The name of the man's name was Elimelech. Elimelech means God is my king. And the name of his wife was Naomi. The name of his 2 sons were Mahlon and Chilion. That is sickly and pining. That's their 2 names. Sound 2 handy boys, don't they? They usually named them in circumstances. If you remember when Isaac, God said to Sarah and Jacob, you've got to have a son, she laughed. Isaac means laughter. They often named after the circumstance. Benjamin, God has judged. Benjamin was the last son of Jacob. His wife died having him. They always named in circumstance. So one must have looked terrible when he was born, and the other one must have literally been screaming his guts out, sickly and pining. In Bethlehem, Judea, they entered the land of Moab and remained there. So they've had a little immigration. Then Elimelech, Naomi's husband, died, and she was left with her 2 sons. They took for themselves Moabite women as wives. The name of one was Orpah, and the name of the other was Ruth. And they lived there for about 10 years. They've left because they think the grass is greener. When they've got there, they've had a poor move now. Now the dear old man's dead there. And the 2 boys are going to die there as well. Where you decide to go and live, make sure you go for the right reasons. Amen. They've ended up in an unsaved land. The pooled with unsaved. She's ended up a widow. And the 2 boys, right, are left now with Moabite women. We'll read a bit more about that. What's happened to them? They're going to have a similar flight. That was. They took for themselves Moabite women as wives. The name of one was Orpah and the other Ruth. They lived there about 10 years. Look at verse 5. Then Mahlon and Chilion also died, and the woman was bereft of her 2 children and her husband. She's now got no boys, no husband, no security, and she's got these 2 daughter-in-laws, or Moabites. Then she arose with her daughter-in-law that she might turn to the land of Moab. She had heard that in the land of Moab the Lord had visited his people, giving them food. They've heard down there that God has revisited his people. What has happened in the spiritual temperature of Israel? There's been a repentance.
Done that.
God has started to
Restore, bless.
Naomi said to her two daughter-in-laws, "Go and return each of you to her mother's house. May the Lord deal kindly with you, that he has dealt with the dead with me. And may the Lord grant that you may find rest each in the house of her husband." Then she kissed them, and they lifted up their voices and wept. Girls, your lives are like at a dead end. Go back, start. She wants what's right for them. None of young girls, go and make a life for yourself. They said to her, "No. Surely we'll return with you to your people." But Naomi said, "Return, my daughters. Why should you go with me? Have I yet had more sons in my womb that I may be your husbands?" Remember, this was the law of the kinsman. To be other children, they take a wife that they have an offspring, so that's their security in their old age. She can't have any more children. She's too old. "Return, my daughters, for I'm too old to have an husband. And even if I had hope, if I should even have an husband tonight, and also bear sons, would you wait until they were grown? Would you therefore refrain from marrying? No, my daughters, for it's harder for me for you. For the hand of the Lord has gone forth against me." They lifted up their voices and they wept again. Orpah kissed her mother-in-law, but Ruth clung to her. Who betrayed Jesus with a kiss? Kissing ain't enough. Clinging is. The word believe in the New Testament, and I'm using a different language now, but the word in Greek for believe has three key things. Cling to, trust in, and rely upon. Not just kiss. Then she said, "Behold, your sister-in-law's gone back to her people and her gods. Return after your sister-in-law." Orpah goes back to her old life. She goes back to what she feels safe in. She goes back to her old way. But Ruth said, "Do not urge me to leave you or turn back from following you, for where I go, you will go. Where you go, I will lodge. Your people will be my people, your God, my God. Where you die, I will die. There I'll be buried. This may the Lord do to me and worse, if anything but death parts you and me." This is her repentance prayer. This is her getting saved. This is her sinner's prayer, if you like. She's binding herself, as you as a Jew, I want to be part of your God, your people, and let it only be death that separates me from what I'm saying with you. This is her getting saved. She wants the old woman's beliefs, and she wants to be with her. The other one's living for now. She wants to go back to a security that she's aware of. One's prepared to go by faith and live with the old woman. When she saw that she was determined to go with her, she said no more. So they both went until they came up to Bethlehem. Now that's a very, very quick story. Moabite, you're going to descend on the way down there. She knew the journey down. You have to go up a Siliite, down to virtually the bottom of the lowest point in the world, the Dead Sea, which is the lowest point on earth. And then you was free game through there. There was no police there. There was no IDF security there for you. You was widowed people. You was fair game. But for some reason, nothing's going to touch them. And they're going to make it back here as safe as houses. So they both went until they came to Bethlehem. And when they had come to Bethlehem, and all the city was stirred because of them, and the woman said, "Is this Naomi?" She said to him, "Do not call me Naomi, call me Mara." So we get the word for Mary, bitter. For the Almighty has dealt very bitterly with me. I went out full, but the Lord brought me back empty. Typical sign of backsliders. They thought when they went out they was bad, but they come back in even worse state. Things go from bad to worse. The Lord has brought me back empty. Why do you call me Naomi? Naomi in Hebrew, I forgot to mention at the beginning, Naomi means pleasure. Pleasure. Don't call me pleasure, call me bitter. Look at my life. So Naomi returned with Ruth, Moabite, his daughter-in-law, and returned from the land of Moab, and they came to Bethlehem at the beginning of the barley harvest. What is the barley harvest, if you want to put a time on it? Passover. They've come back around April the 14th time. Remember, they've been gone a good while. She's an older woman. Imagine how the people were looking at her. They'll probably remember the story. Look, she's come back a widow. What a story. Talk of the town. Now Naomi had a kinsman of her husband, a great man of wealth, of the family of Elimelech, whose name was Boaz. And Ruth the Moabite said to Naomi, "Please let me go to the field and glean among the ears of grain. After one whose sight I might find favour." She said, "Go, my daughter." So she departed and went and gleaned the field after the reapers, and she so happened she came to a portion of the field belonging to Boaz. It was the family of Elimelech. Again, just how the hand of security was upon her from that dangerous land back to here. She's got all these places to go, and what field does she end up in? Only the field of mother-in-law's descendant. Now remember, if you were widowed and you had no children, it was the family's job of the oldest brother to take the wife to have children. If there wasn't an older brother, it had to go to the nearest male in the family. He would then have the chance to be the redeemer, to be a kinsman. He had to be of the same line, and then what he would do, he would have to take the person, have children with her, and them children would be brought up just in the name of the deceased. So Ruth's husband, who died, if this man's willing to have children, he would bring these children up. Not, he'd love them like his own, but he would do it in the respect of the dead man. You understand that? And these children, what are born, it sounds sickly in a way, but this was God's way of provision for that woman. These would be able to go to work and provide for her in her old age. Now she wants to go and glean. Look in verse 2, to glean. She had no idea of this in the Moabite tradition. This is Jewish tradition. This was God's welfare system. This was the dole money of the day. If you had no money, you was allowed to go into a field of someone else and take what had dropped down. And if you were a farmer, you could only go through the crop once. If there was unripe food there, you had to leave it there, and then that would be for the widows and the outcasts to go through to get some food to take back. Do you understand? This was God's way in the law of looking after the down and outs. You couldn't go through twice. Now behold, Boaz came from Bethlehem, and he said to the reapers, "May the Lord be with you." And they said to him, "May the Lord be with you." Then Boaz said to his servant, notice it's an unnamed servant, an unnamed servant. Who's the one who done the introduction between us and Jesus? Who done the introduction between you and Jesus? No one come and left the Spirit draw him. Does the Spirit bring glory to himself? No, he shall bear witness of me, Jesus said. Who's the unnamed servant? God the Holy Ghost. This is a picture of this. The servant who was in charge of the reapers, he said, "Who's the young woman is this?" Boaz is a wealthy man. He's single. He's older. He's seen her in the field. He's took a shine to her. Get the story. She said, "Please let me glean and gather after the reapers among the sheaves." This she came and has remained from morning until now. She's been sitting in the house for a little while. Boaz is asking these men, what's the background on this woman? She's been here all day, she's been hanging about. Why is he asking these questions? He's interested. Then Boaz said to Ruth, "Listen carefully, my daughter." He's now gone and spoke to her. Listen carefully. Boaz said to Ruth, "Listen carefully, my daughter. Do not glean in another field. Furthermore, do not go on from this one, but stay here with my maids. Your bread's buttered here. Stay here. You're allowed. Let your eyes be on the field which they reap, and go after them. Indeed, I have commanded the servants not to touch you. When you are thirsty, go to the water jars, drink from what the servants draw." Then she fell on her face, bowing to the ground, and said to him, "Why have I found favour in your sight? Why would you take notice of us, since I am a foreigner?" She's a Gentile. Boaz replied to her, "All that you have done for your mother-in-law, and after the death of your husband, has been fully reported to me." What's he gone after? Her testimony. Your testimony is so precious to you,
Amen.
more than we understand. It does more damage when we haven't got it than we understand too. It's been fully reported to me, and now you left the house of your father and mother to your land of your birth, and you've come to a people that you did not previously know. Boaz is interested in her. Now, I want you to remember something. Boaz's mother-in-law was Rahab. What was Rahab? A love me. Boaz never forgot where he come from. You understand that? The Jews looked down at the Gentiles. He wasn't too high up to look over that, to look under. Listen, he understands about that. He'd have understood the reputation that his mother would have had with the talk. He never forgot where he come from. He knew what, because
That was his mother, yeah.
Rahab's mother was, Boaz's mother was Rahab. Things have changed. She was blessed. Boaz, one of the wealthiest men there. May the Lord reward your work and your wages be full of the Lord, the God of Israel, under whose wings you've come to seek refuge. To come under the wings of Israel was to put faith in the God of Israel. What did she do when she left? Let your God be
My God.
She's proselyting to Judaism. At the mealtime, Boaz said to her, "Come, that you may eat of the bread, and dip the piece of bread in the vinegar." So she sat beside the reapers, and he served the roasted grain. She ate and was satisfied, and had some left. This is now turning into a dinner date. This is Boaz for Ruth on the back of your hand type of thing. When she arose to glean, Boaz commanded the servant, saying to her, "Glean even among the sheaves, and do not insult her. Let her go amongst the sheaves." What was the sheaves? That was the stuff that was already bundled up. Let her go in there and take the best. You got it? Boaz knows he's in with a shout. Ruth is just soaking it up. Also, you shall purposely pull out some of the grain and the bundles and leave it that she may glean, and do not rebuke them. So she gleaned in the field until evening. She beat out what she had gleaned, and it was about an ephah of barley, a lot. She took it up and went into the city, and her mother-in-law saw what she had gleaned. She sent her out for her first day's work. She's a Gentile. She's been sent out calling for the first day. She has sold out. Got it? The springs are up. Her mother-in-law then said to her, "Where did you glean today? And where did you work? May he who took notice of you be blessed." So she told her mother-in-law with whom she had worked, and the name of the man who I worked today was Boaz. Does the mother-in-law know who Boaz is? Yes. Do you understand? She knows where this is going. Ruth's just starry-eyed. Naomi knows there's a plan here. Now, as well as Boaz being able to marry Ruth and be the kinsman redeemer, when they left, there was ground. There was a few plots involved, and she needs a man involved to buy the plots. The old mother-in-law's got her eye on the yard, plus she's got her eye on Ruth being looked after. Got it? Naomi said to her daughter-in-law, "May you be blessed of the Lord, who has not withdrawn his kindness from the living and the dead." Again, Naomi said to her, "The man is our relative." Got it? It is one of our closest relatives. He's on the board. He's in the favourite category. Then Ruth, the Moabite, said, "Furthermore, he said to me, you should stay close to the servants until they've finished all the harvest." Naomi said to Ruth, her daughter-in-law, "It's good, my daughter, that you go out with his maids, so that others do not fall upon you in another field. You're safe." She stayed close by the maids of Boaz in order to glean until the end of the barley harvest and the wheat harvest, and she lived with her mother-in-law. Then mother-in-law said to her, "My daughter, shall I not seek security for you, that it may be well with you? Now, is not Boaz our kinsman, with whose maids you were? Behold, he winners barley at the threshing floor tonight." If women want to go on a manhunt in any age, this is an unchanging manhunt advice. Wash yourself, anoint yourself, put your best clothes on. That will always work in any age. Have a good tub, plenty of perfume, put your glad rags on. Go down to the threshing floor. But don't make yourself known to the man until he's finished eating and drinking. Don't start going down there and sort of going all gooey-eyed round him and standing there like a big old dinlo. Keep yourself together, stand back, he's got his eye on you, be a lady, he'll come to you. Don't start following him all round, right? Slobbery, stand back. It will be when he lies down that you shall notice the place where he lies. You shall go and uncover his feet, lay down there, he'll tell you what to do. This isn't rude, this is nothing wrong, this is biblical. Let him do his business, and he's going to winnow it that night. That was part of the celebration. What he'll do, they would thresh the grain. Let's say this was a threshing floor. They would then get the oxen, tie big lumps of wood behind it, put the grain down with the sheaves in the straw, drag. This was called the threshing. Put it into Greek, it's called the tribulum. That's where we get the tribulation from. What's God going to do in the tribulation?
Won't be clean.
Grind them down. She said to her, I'll do all that you say do. So when she went down to the threshing floor and did all that was according to her mother-in-law had commanded her, when Boaz had eaten and was drunk, and in his heart was merry, he went to lie down at the end of the heap of grain. The grain is in the barn. Boaz is a picture of Jesus. Jesus is a kinsman of Adam. Adam was lost. He needed a kinsman of Adam to go back and get us. Yeah? Whilst the threshing floor stuff's going on, Ruth, who's a picture of the church, if you like, she's a Gentile. Where is the Gentile whilst the threshing floor scene's going on? She's at the feet of Boaz. Where will the bride of Christ be whilst the threshing floor's going on? At the feet of... It's all there. It happened in the middle of the night. The man was startled and bent forward. Behold, a woman was lying at his feet. He said, who are you? He knew who this was. And she answered, I am Ruth, your maidservant. Spread your covering out over your maid, for you are a close relative. Be my kinsman. He said, who are you? She said, I am Ruth, your maid. Spread your covering out, for you are a close relative. Then he said, may you be blessed of the Lord. My daughter, you have shown your last kindness to be better than your first by not going after young men. You're only a young girl, you could have gone after a nice young man. He's an older man. Whether poor or rich, now my daughter, do not fear. I will do for you whatever you ask. For all my people in the city know that you're a woman of excellence. Testimony, 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 testimony. Don't go after pretty one, young boys, if you're single. Go after the testimony, testimony. Now, is it true that I'm a close relative? However, there is a relative closer than I, all bad bit. There's a competitor. There's another man who's in this position to redeem, and he's closer in line. He's a closer relative. He's higher up the relative chain. Remain this night, and in the morning comes, if he'll redeem you, good, let him redeem you. But if he does not wish to redeem you, then I will redeem you. As the Lord lives, lie down till the morning. Listen what he done for her, boys. Listen to this. So when she lay at his feet until morning, he arose before anyone could recognise another, and he said, let it be not known that the woman came at the threshing floor. And he'd give his cloak and put it on to hold. And he said, give me the cloak that is on you and hold it. So she held it. He measured out 6 measures of barley and laid it on her. Then she went into the city. What's this going to look like if she spent the night laying at his feet? And if he doesn't end up redeeming her? What's it going to cause? What does he do? Fills the coat up with barley. Where have you been? I've been to get barley. He gives me barley every day. He's protecting her. When she came to her mother-in-law, can you imagine the mother-in-law been up all night long? The piece of ground's up for steak. Needs to get an husband for this girl. She would have been climbing the walls. How did it go, my daughter? Oh, imagine that. Oh, look at that, wasn't it? Right? And then she told her all that the man had done for her. She said, these 6 measures of barley, so he gave it to me and she said, do not go to your mother-in-law empty-handed. Do you understand the testimony in that? Then she said, wait until my daughter, until you know how the matter turns out. For this man will not rest until it is settled today. She's like a fly on the wall. She knows she's reading it like a book. Now Boaz went to the gate and he sat down there, gate of the city of Bethlehem, yeah? And behold, there was a close relative who Boaz spoke to, was passing by, and he said, turn aside, friend, sit down here. He turned aside and he sat down. He took 10 men of the elders of the city, and they sat down. So they sat down. This is how they sought disputes. This would have been witnesses. Then he said to the close relative, Naomi, who has come back from the land of Moab, at to sell the piece of land which belonged to our brother Elimelech. So I thought to inform you, saying, buy it before those who are sitting here, the witnesses, and before the elders of my people. If you redeem it, redeem it. But if not, tell me, that I may know, for there is no one but you to redeem it, and I am after you. And he said, I'll redeem it. Looks like the game is off. I'll have that. Nice bit of ground. I'll have that. He wants the land. He wants the plot. Listen. Then Boaz said, ace in the hole. Trump, right? He put the queen in check. Listen to this. On the day you buy that field, of Naomi, you must also acquire Ruth, the Moabitess, the widow of the deceased, in order to raise up the name of the deceased as an inheritance. The close relative said, I cannot redeem it myself. He don't want the woman. When Jesus was tempted, Satan turns around and says to him, as you're the Son of God, get if. He knows who he is. As you're the Son of God, all these things what he showed him, I shall give them if you bow down and worship me. Jesus says no. Satan offers him a shortcut. Don't go to the cross and redeem the bride, just take the land. The other one just wanted the land. Boaz couldn't worry about the land. Boaz wants the woman. Why Jesus wanted us. And he gets the land anyway, because who he is. He wanted us. The close relative said, I cannot redeem it myself because I would jeopardise my own inheritance. I don't want to mess around bringing up children for others. He just wanted to live for himself. Redeem it yourself, that you may have the right of redemption, for I cannot redeem it. Now this was the custom in former times in Israel concerning redemption. In the exchange of land, to confirm the matter, a man would remove his sandal, give it to another. This was the manner of attestation in Israel. Did a terrible thing what the man done. Did a very, very taboo thing to refuse this. So the close relative said to Boaz, buy it for yourself. And he removed the sandal. Then Boaz said to the elders and all the people, you are witnesses today that I have brought from the hand of Naomi all that belongs to Elimelech and all that belonged to Chilon and Mahlon. Moreover, I will acquire Ruth the Moabitess, the widow of Mahlon, to be my wife, in order to raise up the name of deceased on his inheritance, so that the name will not be deceased and cut off from his brothers or from the court of his birthplace. You are witnesses today. Listen now. All of the people were in the court of the elders, so we are witnesses. May the Lord make the woman who's coming into your own like Rachel and Leah, both who built the house of Israel. And may you achieve wealth in Epaphrathah, Bethlehem, and become famous in Bethlehem. Moreover, may your house be like the house of Perez, whom Tamar bore Judah, for an offspring, which the Lord will give you by this young woman. So Boaz took Ruth, and she became his wife. And he went into her, and the Lord enabled her to conceive. She gave birth to a son. Then the woman said to Naomi, blessed is the Lord who has not left you without a redeemer today. May his name become famous in Israel. May he also be to you a restorer of life and a sustainer in your old age. For the daughter-in-law who loves you is better to you than 7 sons. He has given birth to him. Then Naomi took the child, laid him in her lap, and became his nurse. Who's Naomi? She's the old Jew woman. Naomi gets the child at the end. Who got the Christ child first? But they didn't want him. We got him. Who gets him at the end? Who does Naomi represent? Israel. The neighbours' women gave him a name, saying a son has been born to Naomi. They named him Obed. He's the father of Jesse, the father of David. Now these were the generations, and they go down. Now listen carefully. Orpah means double-minded. Ruth means beauty. Boaz means strength. Obed means worship. Mahlon sickness. Chilon pining. Ruth means, so we've got beauty. Kinsman represents the law or the Torah. Bethlehem's the house of bread. Judah means praise. And Elimelech is God is my king. So what, you might say? Let's put the story and use the names as they appear. When Elimelech married Naomi, they brought forth Mahlon and Chilon, and were forced to leave Bethlehem, Judea. Elimelech died, and Naomi became Mara. Later, both Ruth and Orpah, Gentiles, had the chance to return to the God of Israel. Orpah turned back and sought false gods. Ruth returned to the God of Israel. However, Ruth found grace in the eyes of her kinsman Redeemer, who then purchased her, and he was joined to Boaz. What the near kinsman could not do, Boaz did. Ruth married Boaz and brought forth Obed. Is that the story? Let's take the Hebrew names away and replace them with English ones. Listen carefully. When God is my king married pleasure, they brought forth sickness and pining, and were forced to leave the house of bread and praise. God is my king died, and pleasure became bitterness. Later, both beauty and double-minded Gentiles had the chance to return to the God of Israel. Double-minded turned back and sought false gods. Beauty returned to the God of Israel. However, beauty found grace in the eyes of her kinsman redeemer, who then purchased her, and she was joined to strength. What the law could not do, strength did. Beauty married strength and brought forth worship.
Amen.
That's what it means to these folk here. They know what that means. We need to translate it. There's the story of the church. Boaz, picture of Jesus, taking a Gentile bride. He's a bit older than the church, isn't he? He's eternal. Takes us, brings us into the deal.